Parce Domine, parce populo tuo, ne in aeternum iras caris nobis. Parce Domine, parce populo tuo, ne in aeternum iras caris nobis. Flectamus iram vindicem, floremus ante judicem, clamemus ore supplici, dicamus omnes cernui. Parce Domine, parce populo tuo, ne in aeternum iras caris nobis.
I was first exposed to the Latin Mass as a layman in Washington, D.C. A friend of mine had invited me to St. Mary's in downtown D.C. where they had it. And it was, I didn't realize that what it was at the time, but it was a missa cantata. It was the priest singing the Mass, and it was captivating. Now, I went to a beautiful parish with great liturgy and great music in Washington. This would have been in right around the year 2000. But there was something captivating about it. Having been in the seminary, I knew a little bit about the Latin Mass, but not a lot because it wasn't talked about. It was the Mass that shall not be named when I was in seminary. It was verboten. We got rid of that, was sort of the attitude that was given to us. So there was something mysterious, a little forbidden about it, which makes it all the more attractive. But that was my first experience, and then I didn't experience it again until I was a priest. I came to this parish on July 5th, 2007. 2 days later, we get Summorum Pontificum from Pope Benedict XVI. And right away, people in the parish, I was just here a couple of days, asked me, Father Reed, are you going to say the Latin Mass?
So the founder of the Charlotte Latin Mass community, Chris Lauer, had familiarity with the Latin Mass through Fraternity of St. Peter parishes. Most recently for him it was in Atlanta. And they wanted it here.
And soon after, our Bishop Emeritus, Bishop Peter Jugis, queried all of us priests and asked how many of us would like to learn the Latin Mass. And because there were a number of us, he said, how about we do this? We'll bring in a priest from the Fraternal Society of St. Peter. Any priest who wants to learn the Latin Mass will provide for it. And then we introduced it here in 2008 in the parish. And that's how I got rolling with it.
And we were getting a weekly Latin Mass at St. Anne's that Father Reed, the pastor, had been offering since Summorum Pontificum. And we wanted more than that. But eventually got to a point where Chris Lauer kind of got this blueprint together of how to do this. And I think he was following the Summorum Pontificum model that, I don't know if he kind of invented this blueprint or found it from somebody else on the internet, but it was really about getting the stable group of faithful that they talked about, Benedict talked about. And that stable group of faithful was about 50 families that kind of agreed to have their names added to an email list.
No, Ascension Thursday 2009, that we did our first Missa Cantata. And I remember the church was under renovation, and so we were having Mass in the cafeteria. And even though we were having Mass in a cafeteria, that Mass did something to me. As soon as I said proceed with the altar boys at the end, I wanted to go offer the Mass again. And I looked at my MC and I'm like, let's go do that again. Because it was powerful and beautiful.
Like everyone who experiences it the first time, it's a little different to experience the verticality of it all in one way with the ad orientem. And yeah, it after about 4 or 5 times, I think you get into the pattern and the flow of the prayer of the Mass, and it has a whole different feel than the Novus Ordo.
Even as a child, I felt drawn to the Blessed Virgin Mary. And so when I grew up, I did convert. So I've been a Catholic for 16 years now. But after the initial newness of converting wore off, I did feel like something was missing. I couldn't really find any place that there was like proper formation for somebody who was an adult who wanted to continue to deepen their faith. I couldn't find that, or I hadn't found it, and then that's when I stumbled into error. But it wasn't until a few years ago when I found the traditional Latin Mass that I realized, oh, that's what I was looking for. I was trying to learn how to be more reverent, but I didn't know how to be more reverent.
When I experienced the reverence, the bells and whistles, the pomp and circumstance, it was just amazing. And we never went back to other parish.
And it was a little jarring because it was an hour in and we got to the Gloria. And we're like, oh, this is a lot longer than I'm used to, especially as a 12-year-old.
My first ever exposure to Latin Mass was the first time I ever entered a Catholic church, period. I came in, a group of friends that I'd been hiking with for a good while had been slowly but surely convincing me to at least come and experience what the Catholic faith had to hold. And with all due honesty, when I came in that day, I had zero expectations. I just wanted them to stop asking me about it, and I just wanted to just please them. That's all it was. But I came in, and it was just immediately, as soon as I walked in those doors, just the grace coming from the Latin Mass, it just overflowed me, and was to the day. I mean, even 6 months later, when I was baptized and confirmed, and received my first Holy Communion, even that wasn't the same level of graces that came over me that day that I walked into church. It was just, really truly brought me to my knees. Was just an incredible experience. And just to be able to have that be my first experience with the Catholic Church, it's just, I feel so blessed as to have been able to experience that. I mean, just the pureness of that Mass was just, it felt like it went on for hours and hours, and I was so happy just to be there and to be able to experience that, just even as a non-Catholic. But I'm so thankful that it was, because here I am 2 years later, and I'm still going to the 8:30 Mass every single week, and it's an incredible thing.
You know, I had been to Catholic Masses many times growing up. My godparents were Catholic. I used to stay at their house all the time on the weekends. I used to go to Mass with them. But I never knew that it was anything different than the Methodist Church I was going to. I knew that there were different denominations, and I knew that they wouldn't give me the Eucharist there, which I didn't like. Other than that, I didn't know that it was any different, because basically the presentation was the same as far as I could see. There was like a woman who played guitar there, and there was the same kind of sing-songy kind of vibe there, I guess. And again, just as a young man growing up, it just didn't appeal to me. I thought this is kind of a thing for like grandmas or something like that. No offense to the grandmas. We love the grandmas.
So I'd always gone to Novus Ordo, so I'd always dress very casual. And so I show up to this Latin Mass, and I'm wearing like a Miami Dolphins hoodie, and everyone is wearing suits and ties, and I'm like, oh no, what is wrong here?
I went to a few Novus Ordos, and I wouldn't have converted if that was all there was. There's no way I would have.
And not until I encountered the Latin Mass did I realize there's another level You know, there's a deeper level, at least to me experientially. You could even say aesthetically. But it's deeper than aesthetics. Aesthetics is a part of it, but it calls to a richer heritage, a deeper tradition. And so I attended a Latin Mass for about a year just by myself. I didn't really know what was going on. I tried to follow along, and I would just stand up when everybody else stood up, or go kneel when everybody else kneeled, and try to say my prayers. So after about a year, I pulled aside the priest there, Father Reed, and I told him, hey, I've been coming here for about a year, but I think probably I'd have to get baptized, or, I should probably join the church.
It's been a profound effect that the Latin Mass has had on me, on my spiritual life especially. But most of it is just the enrichment of my priesthood. There's something that I discovered when I was reading some books, and there was an expression that I think Pope Benedict XVI used. It was something like mutual enrichment. And so I discovered that mutual enrichment that the Latin Mass has had on the Novus Ordo Mass, that the more I guess I celebrated the Latin Mass, I discovered the benefit, lots of benefits that then helped in the way that I approached the Novus Ordo. So I can say that I have benefited in that sense, that both in my priesthood and then of course in my spiritual life.
I got the impression of like a deep reverence paid not only to the Eucharist but also to the priest during the Mass. Like, for instance, like all the little bows you give to the priest and kissing his hand and that sort of thing. And then to the Eucharist also, like the communion rail, like you have to kneel to receive communion, and then there's no receiving on the hands. You always just receive on the tongue.
It's not just the reverence, it's what the reverence made me do, I think. So the reverence at the Mass made me go deeper into the faith, but now I had something to look to. Okay, well, why does the priest face that way? Why do we do things this way in a traditional Latin Mass? What does that mean? And then in a very interesting way, you start talking to parishioners who go to TLM and they go, check out this book, or this is one of the reasons why we do X, Y, Z, and read this, check out this catechism,
When a young lady veiled, she receives communion.
I don't care if you have no kneelers. And
lots of chapel veils.
I respect everybody's
this woman
clerical position, but I'm gonna kneel and I'm gonna receive in the tongue. And if it's denied to me, then my Lord knows that I'm not gonna take him at that moment, not because I didn't want to, but because of respect towards him and reverence towards him and love towards him. The reason we participate in that thing and why I teach my kids that it doesn't matter where you are, you receive kneeling down and in the tongue out of reverence, out of respect, and out of love. And the reason why we participate in things like that, it's also to let our priests, bishops, and people in charge of you who are supposed to be your spiritual fathers, what you want.
The reverence, it allowed me to ask more questions, and it gave me that jumping off point to ask more questions that helped me to study and deepen my faith and start to take it more seriously, because I felt like it was taken more seriously,
I love the fact that I'm praying for the priest to do what needs to be done on behalf of me, that I'm not the one that's doing it. I love having a leader. It's so important to have a spiritual leader. And it's so obvious in the TLM that there's a leader there for us.
And then of course the liturgy itself has a way of drawing you in, because it gives you the silence. It gives you the space, but it also asks of you, because with the silence of the Latin Mass, you have to participate and you have to put forth the effort to engage in it, because Father's facing the other direction. You have to put the effort in. It gives you a lot more opportunity to realize that God's speaking, but usually in the quietest of ways. Our society is so noisy, and so many different ways of getting into your head and imbibing you with messages, that when you're praying, it's easy to miss it unless you've experienced the silence. And so in that time, you can have opportunity to say, that little tiny inkling of maybe I should X introduces you that to, oh, that might be God's direction through, your guardian angel or some other form that you don't always think about without having that experience of silence.
I love wearing the veils. I love being able to go into another world. It's like we're leaving the busyness of our lives and we're slowing down, and we're actually given a chance to worship in quiet and in the chants and all of it.
I actually, in 2021, really started seeking, what was the original church? I started reading the church fathers. Being a Christian, I was like, we all can't be right. Somebody's got to be wrong, whether it's, I don't know what I was going to find in the first couple centuries, but I didn't expect to find Catholicism. I thought maybe Presbyterianism or Lutheranism or something, I don't know. But like my Catholic friends told me, be careful what you start going and searching for. It was confirmed to me from a priest in the Charlotte Diocese that I was having some demonic issues in my spiritual battle, and that Latin prayers are actually more potent in combating the demonic.
I remember seeing a video that still sticks with me today, and it was a Eucharistic procession, and it was everything, the smells, the bells, the canopy, the beautiful vestments, lots of altar boys, and I thought, wow, I have never ever seen that in any of the churches that I have been associated with in my whole life. What happened? Why aren't we seeing this? Why isn't this happening on the regular? And I just sort of felt robbed. Was something stolen from me? I was born into Catholicism, and it just sort of felt like a birthright was stolen. Where it wasn't happening. And I thought, wow, that was just beautiful.
Actually, about the time Scott converted, we were
in pretty bad shape.
Yeah.
That's what you're trying to tell me.
Yeah.
The right time. Yeah,
we were headed to divorce court.
Yeah, we were very close to it. Yeah. We're nowhere near it now. I mean, it was a completely different.
Totally changed our lives.
I mean, what are you going to do? That's one of the things that I think when you get involved in true Catholicism, you've got something to connect to, and you realize that there's something much more than you, and I don't know, it's just hard to describe it.
I converted into the Novus Ordo Mass, and it was in Japan, so it was extra novus. And I thought it was fine. That's what brought me into the church. It was a guitar mass. It was literally a guitar mass. That was the first one I ever went to in my life. But I could feel that God is there. And so that's how I converted, is just going deeper into that awareness that God is there at the Mass in a way that he wasn't in any other religious ceremony or other denomination or other religious building that I'd ever been in before. But I didn't really realize there ever had been such a thing as the Latin Mass, because as a convert you don't necessarily know that, because what you see is what you think, what you see is what you get. But I slowly started to look more into the church's history and realized that there had been this thing called the Latin Mass. And then living in Japan, what you're living with as a day-to-day reality is that there are different language masses for different language communities. And we would go to the English Mass. Sometimes we would go to the Japanese Mass. But at the same church where we were going, there's also a Vietnamese Mass, a Polish Mass, a Korean Mass, a Chinese Mass, and there was Spanish too, Portuguese, I think. So it's just this multilingual, I don't want to use the word Babel, but that's what pops into my head. And there's no interchange between the communities who go to these separate masses. And that's how I started thinking, you know, the Latin Mass was really a good idea because it would unify the entire Catholic Church regardless of language.
Talking about unity, right? And wanting to unify the church. Right? So
That's
we
right.
can all
That's
pray in the same language, the exact same rubrics, right? Wherever you are, and that's the beauty about taking your children to a Latin Mass too.
Yeah, I don't know
they
that. I mean, in Charlotte, they're doing masses, at least in Spanish, English. I think there's a Vietnamese maybe also, and maybe even a different one also. Maybe there's 4 in Charlotte, but yeah. So, and if you look about it, obviously around the world, right? It was like, yeah, you can all unify under the Latin banner, right?
And not just that, right?
Which is the language of the church.
And even locally, there's a parish that does not just a bilingual mass, but a trilingual mass. And like every reading and every song is in a different language, and you're literally hopping from one to the next, and it's like, where are we? Like, can we just get unified?
Maybe if we just picked one language.
Just do a Latin Mass, and we're all on the same page, and it would make it so much easier. But instead, I gotta now know Vietnamese and Spanish on top of English.
So when I visit Rome, then we go to the Latin Mass. Oh, wow. And I was like, this is beautiful. I was so amazed. And it was also very excited to me that besides that I understand a little bit of French, I don't know Latin, but the words and the ways that we answer in Mass, they were close to home. And I was like, this is so familiar. I know this. I don't need to learn. I don't need to learn Latin. I know what is happening, and I can follow through. So I love it, and it was always like a treasure to me. But it was never looked for. I never knew that it was offering in different places. So it was, for me, it was something that it was only on Rome, and it was on the Opus Dei on a higher level, but not to the people.
And you think about Catholicism, me being a convert, it's the beauty of it is it should be the Mass no matter where you go. And of course, historically, the Roman Rite, that was the case. You might have a high Mass, you may have a low Mass, that's fine. Could be a little bit of differences culturally, could be differences, a little bit of music, but really, it's the Mass is the Mass.
I mean, every parish is unique, so I would say it's a unique parish, but every pastor would say that, I'm sure. But we have such a diversity of everything here. We have not only many different cultures and different languages, we have different liturgies, not only with Novus Ordo and with Latin Mass, but even I have Eastern Rite Catholics here on my campus. It's just such a hodgepodge of different things. I've told my people this too in the past, that in other parishes that I've been in, people probably without meaning to often vie for their own interests. And it was always a difficulty as a priest and as a pastor to try to provide things for people that they wanted. Whether it's Masses in Spanish, Masses in French, whatever it might be. What I have found here at St. Thomas is that far from finding that kind of factional nature, there's a great unity here in the parish. I told people when I first got here too that I would swear that there is a beautiful angel here at this parish that brings a great peace. It's part of what I encountered in Masses here, in the people here. I so highly value it because I've not always had peace as a priest in the parishes that I've been in. And so far from finding division here, really, I don't find any of that. There are always people with different opinions and always little differences here and there. It's not heaven, not quite. But I have not found division here within the parish. Most people that attend my Latin Mass here will go to the Novus Ordo and vice versa. people find beauty really in both of them. And that's a great thing I love about the parish. It's just very peaceful.
There's a sense of peace at the Latin Mass that you don't really get at the Novus Ordo. And for me, that was something that I thought was really, because living in a house with 3 other brothers, it's, a little bit hectic and crazy. So I thought that was really, really nice.
And both of us experienced it, and the reverence and the incredible music. The music really brought me towards it, because music's played an important part in my life, my whole life. But because I knew he was a wise man, I knew there had to be more to it than what I grew up with. So we both started attending the traditional liturgy, and we haven't looked back.
I would say that music actually did have a large part of that. It was very integral to the entire thing, although, we used to have a Kapellmeister here, Tom Savoy, who was really an amazing person. He would do all this music. I was like, where did you find this stuff?
My name is Thomas Savoy, and I am Magister Capella, which is a fancy term for director of music at the St. Joseph's College Seminary here.
And I became very friendly with him, by the way. And one day he said to me, he goes, you got to realize there was about 1,000 years of Catholic tradition in Europe. And every cathedral had somebody like me, better than me, but like me, that would write the music and everything like that. And I said to him, why do we stop this? Because it's packed when they have the Orate Mass here. And he was like, well, that's a good question. Yeah, why did we stop it? I don't know, can't tell you.
Thriving young community where there's every single Sunday is standing room only. Every single event that we attend is packed and full of life, and I just don't see that at other parishes the way that I see it at our parish. It is, like I said, bursting at the seams with love and life and families and children and elderly people, and just every single person is welcome, and every single person is cared for, and yes, he's given graces, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful thing to be a part of.
The parishes have benefited greatly because there's a lot of attraction to the young families, and these are big families. You see that the attendance is mostly these young, beautiful, vibrant families, and they are seeking this Mass. They want this. And of course, when the whole parish sees this, it's an encouragement to see young, beautiful, big families. Everybody appreciates that.
Right, and I think children too, especially, really benefit from that. I think sometimes it's easy to speak too much to them in a way, where it's just these words coming at them, and that they just kind of filter out or go in one ear and out the other. But when they're seeing it unfold in front of them and seeing those actions, I think it can have a very profound effect on them and their understanding of God, their relationship with Christ, and their understanding of the sacredness of what's happening before them.
I still go to both. I go to Novus Ordo and I go to Latin Mass. But there was something about the Latin Mass that Like, we are in front of our Lord. Like, this is, he's right there. He's right there. And I think when you are coming into the church in kind of like your kind of standard parish, it's like, yes, this is our Lord, this is his body, this is his blood. But it still kind of felt like,
it just seemed a little too,
it still felt,
I'm at a loss for words to give a charitable description to my experience.
like,
I guess, you know, it seemed a little bit soft to me in a way. It seemed a little bit feel good.
What's the word?
And when I look at the cross, I didn't see feel good. I saw sacrifice, I saw repentance, I saw, you know, hungering and going on a journey to God. I saw deep introspection.
I don't want to say casual, but sometimes, maybe.
And so my concern is to balance that with a sort of, how can I say, easygoing, holistic attitude to this supposed division, because it doesn't have to be like that. If the Latin Mass is anything, it's what I thought it was from the beginning, something that should bring the whole entire church together. And that's what I want them to grow up to be, is people who bring together rather than pushing apart. And I think that we're on that track because, like I said, they go to Novus Ordo Mass at school and then we go to Latin Mass on Sunday. Sometimes we eat sushi, sometimes we eat McDonald's. But it's all good, right, girls? Yeah. Yeah, even if we like sushi better.
There's a strength that I get from when I go to Latin Mass that it's not replaceable. There's something about maybe the ancientness of it. I don't know. I don't know what it is. And it's beautiful to be able to have found something that helps you to surrender to God in a way that you don't have to know. I don't have to be able to put them perfectly into words.
Of course, when coming into something as big and as new as this was for me, especially as a 15-year-old, it was definitely overwhelming at first. But I mean, after maybe my second Mass, it quickly came clear to me that it wasn't about whether or not I understood it or I understood every little thing Father was saying or why he was doing this or that. It was just about the Mass itself. And it was just knowing that that was the true form of worship, and it was how they've been doing it for hundreds and hundreds of years. So while yes, it was intimidating, it was an acceptable kind of intimidating that was perfectly okay, even as a 15-year-old.
I was just so happy when he finally converted and told me that he really loved the Latin Mass, and it was partly, you know, a Latin Mass had a large reason for him falling in love with the church, and I was like, well, then we're never going to anything else.
There's something very masculine about the Latin Mass, and young men are attracted to it. And I think because it provides, in some ways, a more contemplative experience, it provides a space for some discernment. And young men get captivated, especially when they're serving it. You know, we have this whole troop of altar boys here. So many of the young men from our parish are in the seminary, and right now we have 9 men from this parish studying for the priesthood. They found their vocation at Mass, and a lot of them at the Latin Mass. In fact, we have 2 men from our parish who are studying for the Fraternal Society of St. Peter. They found their vocation in the Latin Mass.
Yeah, so I think I started serving when I was between 8 and 9. And so then just serving the Latin Mass, since we started going to it, just kind of seemed natural just to want to serve there. And also the serving is a lot more, you say, like slightly more intense, because there's a lot more positions, there's a lot more jobs you have to do. And so that was almost like you could say, a slight novelty to be able to do all those other things on the altar. And then just being, close. I think the Latin Mass, it gives you a really good perspective of like what we're worshiping, I think. And so just being on the altar and realizing what is on the altar, I think was really, really good. And then that sense of peace also.
There's breaking news in the Catholic world again, as the Diocese of Charlotte has become the epicenter of the liturgy wars in the Catholic Church.
Oh, sure. I mean, like I said, I'm here to welcome everyone. I don't make those kinds of distinctions. I think the Holy Father's been very clear.
Traditionis Custodes really expels these people.
Bishops coming out of the woodwork to speed up their crushing of the traditional Latin Mass in their dioceses. Without hesitation, we're implementing Traditionis Custodes.
There's no way all the bishops of the world actually said they need the TLM to go away.
Why the sudden change? You have any insight?
I do not.
It would be a much, already we drive 30 minutes each way with 5 kids, 6 and under, in a hot car in South Carolina, and then you're there for an hour and a half, and then community afterwards is important too, and everybody's outside and kind of bonding after Mass, and you'll miss that if you're at the chapel. You don't get to see your parish community as often.
Families have already started planning how they're going to respond when the access is cut or reduced. And in that way, it has sort of already started impacting families and community. The Latin Mass community has sort of split. Do I go to this parish, or do I go to this parish, or do I drive the distance to another parish? And not everyone is seeing it from the same way. It's quite scattering. Very sad to see the sheep scattered from the decisions that are being made.
Part of what I enjoy about being a priest, not the primary thing, but one of the things I enjoy is trying to foster vocations. And with all of my servers, I feel like I'll never see them again, effectively. On paper, they're still my parishioners, and I do appreciate that. But in practice, they're going to always be at this chapel in Mooresville. So I feel like I just will never see them again. And that separation that's being forced by this makes me really sad.
And so, yeah, it would be really heartbreaking.
Yeah.
I mean, I cried when we heard the news.
When the whole thing in Charlotte happened, my first thought was, and Matthew and I have talked about that in the past, is what good father gives their children stone when they're asking for bread, or what good father reaches them a serpent when they're asking for fish. If my children came to me and said, Mama, I'm hungry, I'm not gonna go tell them go outside and eat a rock.
Because I don't feel that I'm in rebellion against the church at all. I feel like what I'm trying to do is embrace the church and embrace the tradition.
The situation that we find ourselves in now with losing the Latin Mass in this parish has brought a lot of heartache. Our parishioners now have to make a choice between the Mass that they love and the parish that they love. And that's a hard, hard decision to make. I have asked our bishop repeatedly over the course of a few months to please reconsider, to understand what's going on in our parish and in the other 3 parishes in the diocese where this is happening. Because it is a difficult situation. The understanding is that people who go to the Latin Mass chapel in Mooresville will remain members of their parish. There will not be a collection taken at the Latin Mass chapel, and that people are going to be asked to continue giving to their parishes and to be involved in the life of their parishes in terms of extracurricular activities, faith formation. If they're to be married or if they're to have a baptism in their family, it will take place in their parish, not in the chapel. That being said, it's still hard because as a pastor you want to see your people, and Sunday is when you see your people. And there will be a hole here in our community.
To bounce back and forth just for us in the way that our family is structured would have been really, really difficult. We kind of had to decide where we were gonna be. There's a little bit of liturgical schizophrenia when you're trying to do both. If the Mass goes away, it will be really, really sad for our family, and we know for other people as well. It will be very, very disruptive.
The thing that is the hardest for me is a big part of my faith life is it's a journey, right? And we're not supposed to be doing this journey on our own. We should be doing it within our parish. And now we're going to be living this double life where we worship with a group of people and then we come back to our parish for other needs. So it's going to be a little schizophrenic.
Say, okay, this is what it looks like to trust God, and even when things go wrong, especially when things go wrong, you already have these graces and you already have this community that knows how to do this, that knows how to navigate this.
If the Latin Mass was to go away from St. Anne's, it would be super divisive. And I know you know this, but it would be the worst thing that anybody could do is to push away part of the parish family. It would be like causing a divorce. And it would be like a forced divorce within this parish. This liturgy has uplifted so many people, including me. And if it wasn't for the Latin Mass, I wouldn't be who I am today. And they probably wouldn't be either. My daughter, my husband, we all know what a debt we owe to it.
I'm heartbroken. Our children will miss out on graces because of this. And our church gets weaker. And we are literally being sent to the spiritual battle with less utility. We are being sent to the spiritual battle, into the spiritual warfare with less weaponry, with less ammunition, with less powerful tools.
I really think that that's helpful for us as Catholics to understand that just attending the Novus Ordo isn't less, but you don't get to see the breadth of the church when you don't experience the other rites at all, or even have any awareness of what the Latin Mass offers.
We'll lose a lot of the family that is within
the community.
A lot of the community and family that's within this church, and that is a very harmful thing.
Aren't you supposed to be a loving father providing for the spiritual needs? And again, we love the bishop. I teach my kids to love the bishop.
I think it's going to hurt our community. And I'm super pregnant and I don't want to start crying.
It's not like we don't love him. We just want him to love us back as well. It's a thing of, can you please love us back? That's my question. And when the whole thing happened with the Latin Mass and I explained to my kids what was going on, my kids said, Mama, is he just trying to be mean?
I told God, we are already so blessed with what we have. We just have the convenience, right? And I see other families. I see you, for example, and we have other friends that they travel because they're hungry for the Latin Mass. So that will be us too. When we're traveling.
I will make the time to go however far that may be, 60, 70, 80 miles. Every Sunday morning I will find a new Latin Mass.
I don't think the church can go in a different direction. It is what it is. And I think it's difficult. It's because you have all different sides telling you what you can and cannot do. For me, this has been a part of our church for thousands of years. How can it be bad?
It's beautiful. The hymns, the prayers, the silence, all of it is so beautiful and it draws us. So that's my only message to the bishop, really, embrace it.
I still would like my children to be exposed to it, even on a limited basis, but I just don't think that we would be able to get there every single weekend.
But anytime I went to a Latin Mass, no, we're not playing. This is our Lord. And you're like, wow. Like, and the first time I went, you know, it was very moving for me.
It's interesting because last summer I had this conversation with a dear friend of mine who was lamenting the fact that or concerned with her children understanding or perceiving the mysteries, the beautiful mysteries of our faith, and the profound mystery of the Eucharist. And in that conversation, it dawned on me that I don't really have that problem, you know, and that I understand why she does, but because we have the Latin Mass, I feel like it has instilled in my children and in myself this understanding of the beauty, the transcendence, the sublime nature of our faith, of the mysteries of our faith, of the Paschal mystery that's being celebrated at Mass. And so I think that they have, that our kids have benefited from that, and that has really dramatically impacted their faith and their understanding of these mysteries. Now, of course, it doesn't mean that they understand all these mysteries, but just that perception and that sense that that we are encountering something so holy and so sacred every Mass we go to. And that's kind of, I think, becomes so foundational to their understanding of our faith and impacted them profoundly.
I told my parishioners here a couple of times, probably more than I meant to, in my homilies. When I first came to this parish, I had never offered a high Mass ever in my life. And one of my first Masses here was a high Mass. And so I was very nervous about it. But my wonderful servers here, and my MC in particular, took good care of me. But in that Mass, I just remember hearing the choir and the beauty, being up there before the Lord, offering the Mass, and just something struck me of just how beautiful it was. And my relationship with it has grown in my time here at St. Thomas. It is the Mass that most uplifts my soul, I think. It's hard to put into words, I think, maybe why that is, but there's just such a solemnity, such a reverence, such a contemplative nature to it. Everything about it assists me in offering the sacrifice and being present to our Lord and really in my intimacy with Him. But at the Mass, I am able to recenter myself in God. He always finds a way to speak to me, to be close to me, to reassure me, to give me wisdom, to give me answer, or just to give me peace. It's just invaluable, and I don't know how He does it.
Even though things are changing, even though it appears we're going to lose the Latin Mass in our parish, I refuse to be downtrodden. I honestly think it'll be back. I do. I think that this time of having the Latin Mass only in the chapel in Mooresville, this is sort of like a Babylonian exile. There's going to be a time when the Latin Mass comes back. But the Latin Mass is here to stay. That it's here to stay. And that even if it's sequestered into certain corners of certain dioceses right now, it's going to come back. And I'm hopeful. I have faith in God. And I just pray that I can walk through this transition well, and that I can walk my parish, shepherd my parish through this time of transition well, so that we can grow in virtue through all of this.